We are live for episode number 95 on this Monday, July the 29th, 2024, airing on Instagram, X, and YouTube, and as always, powered by StreamYard. And it is Empire State of Baseball here once again on a Monday evening. Joined by, get away, curtain. Joined by Thomas, Corey Favs, Joe Pugliese, as always. Thomas, how was your weekend, sir?
Weekend was good. Weekend down in Wildwood, New Jersey, Ultimate Frisbee Tournament. Team took our second straight championship, if you want to call that, on Sunday. More of like a championship. But listen, they give trophies to us, so we got two straight. We're feeling good. We're feeling we're a little tired. We're a little sore. And we're waiting for Juan Soto to hit a grand slam right now is what we're really waiting for.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I'm surprised you won because I would have thought you have lost a bet over the weekend with the new look that you got on the face. What is that? You look like a Marvel villain.
Listen, I just had to pick up the mantle. You shaved your mustache, and it's kind of like, when, one death, then like a phoenix, from the ashes, it rises. So your mustache died so mine could live.
Michael Lorenzen got traded to the Royals, not Empire State of Baseball. Jeez.
Listen, it's we've committed to this.
The one guy in the chat who used to always say the progression of beards, he would be upset, but we haven't seen him in a long time.
Who's our only Twitch follower?
Yeah, I think our last follower at that. Corey, Joe, what's going on? Corey, how was your weekend?
Good. I was actually spending it with a familiar face, Mr. Rich Rivera, and we were down at a bachelor party for one of our other friends and a fan of the show. He was a follower, Greg. You might have seen him in the chat a bit there. So a fun weekend. We were celebrating the Diamondbacks as opposed to New York baseball. Best seats ever had in a ballpark, and it will be hard to top that in the future. That's how good the seats were. So
without
really fun time though.
Absolutely, without question. Best baseball going experience was getting those tickets over at Chase Field, sitting right next to the Arizona Diamondbacks player, where, you see Corey Favs on one side of a fence, and literally it's a thin fence split between Corey Favs and the Diamondbacks starting pitcher, Zach Gallen, looking down his iPad. I mean, that's how cool and how close we were to the D-backs who won that game on Friday evening. And again, shout out to our longtime friend and supporter of the show, Greg Kandari. Congratulations to Greg, the wedding in a couple of months, but we obviously had to celebrate with a good bachelor party over in Arizona. Joe, what's going on, my friend? I saw you were tearing up the racetrack this weekend.
Yes, I was. I got to participate in from my birthday gift from my wife and my father and all of our family. They got me 16 laps in a stock car around Pocono Raceway. I got to drive that thing 155 miles an hour. No joke. I'll post the video later. And when I say it was one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life, bar none. I mean, it was awesome. They put me in a flame suit. I had the helmet. I had the racing gloves. I look like Jeff Gordon. I mean, that's
listen, Joe, you look like Jeff Gordon.
I look like Jeff Gordon. Oh, it was awesome. Even if you don't like NASCAR and you like cars and you like racing, you like driving fast on the highway, I suggest you do it because it was badass.
Yo, at 155 miles an hour, were there more skid marks on the track or in your pants?
Admittedly, a little both, but I mean, it's a wild experience, and man, I tell you, it was fun as hell. It was absolutely fun as hell.
Hell of a job by Joe, putting on his best Dom Toretto impersonation over this weekend. But here with the family on Empire State of Baseball, not including, of course, my extended family of Tom, Joe, and Corey, but the chat. And we got to shout out our chooches of the chat. And Sierra Poteet, once again, the family member of ESB over at ESB NYY, always putting up great numbers and posts over on our X account over there. Give Sierra a follow at ESBNYY and her own account at Sierra Not Miss. Bring us some good news, and hopefully we have some trade news to discuss as we're less than 24 hours away from the trade deadline. More on that to come. We got Jacob Petruzzi in the house. Shout out to Jacob. We got Luke Cash over from Luke Cash Island and a member of the Yankees Pod family. Make sure to give Yankees Pod a follow on X at Yankees Pod. So shout out to Luke Cash. We got Boogie over at Boogie Nights, live on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern Seaboard time. We have the Chooch himself. Tom, I approve of the look. There you go, Tom. There's one fan right there, and that's our resident Chooch, who's got that similar look himself. Now that I'm looking at him. Actually, Tom kind of looks like Matt. Now that I'm looking at him.
I don't have the cheetah print. If I had the cheetah print, I could pull it off, but no cheetah print.
I think Matt's retired the cheetah print, but we'll get back to Chooch's pick of the week later on tonight.
Sure.
Ghost is in the building. Shout out to Ghost over at Morning Brew Sports. We got Mr. L.I. Yankee King, his favorite time of the year, the MLB Trade Deadline. Speaking of which, Sierra Yeager needs a trade, and hopefully we have some trade news later on today. We have Bojo in the house. Shout out to Bojo. We got Mark. Give the Charizard to me, Corey. I guess, Corey and Mark got to settle that offline, but we can't be having that. Oh, we got Hector over at Morning Brew Sports. Give Morning Brew Sports a subscribe and follow. And Hector and Yankees Morning Brew goes live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure to check out Yankees Morning Brew. And I believe that is it. And here he is, Morning Brew Sports. I'm here for one reason only. That's to tell Joe I love him. A lot of love here from the chat. Love you guys. And let's keep this going with tonight's lineup. But before we get to tonight's lineup, Tom's got a few words on our friends over at Roback.
I got a few words from my friend Austin Wells, who just hit a booming double. It's about to be 7-2 Yankees. Love to hear that.
Killing my fantasy.
Let's go.
I love to do that.
Let's go, Austin Wells. Big month for him. Go ahead, Thomas.
Love the triple for Austin Wells. Hello. Let's talk about our friends from Roback here. Again, you know it. They have incredible polos, Q-zips, hoodies, shorts, joggers, bathing suits, women's stuff. And there's a couple things I want to kind of put you guys all onto. One, they are still rolling with their last call sale. So a lot of their popular items who are kind of maybe going, they're the last bits of some of these items. They're up to 30% off right now. And with promo code TWASPL15, you can get yourself an additional 15% off. So you really can get some steals on some high quality items. I'm looking through it right now. I got hats, I got shorts, Q-zips, t-shirts, all kinds of stuff there. But also with the Olympics going on, their USA collection continues to roll out. So some incredible red, white, and blues if you're looking for some solid print things in the red, white, or blue. They also just came out with a new polo called the Pastime, which is baseball bats, red, white, and blue baseball bats. I think it's perfect for this show. Again, head over to roback.com and save yourself 15% off of your first order using promo code TWASPL15.
Yes, sir. Make sure to use that code TWASPL15 off your next or new order of Roback merch. Save 50% off at roback.com. Thank you very much for that, Thomas. And let's kick things off with our lineup. And our lineup is presented by Roback. And tonight we have the Empire Express, as always, leading things off with Mets and Yankees discussion. And as I mentioned, we are less than 24 hours away from the trade deadline. There are some moves made over this past weekend. Yankees acquiring Jazz Chisholm, Mets getting Ryan Stanek and Jesse Winker. So we will touch on those moves and what's to come for either team as we are getting closer and closer to the MLB trade deadline. Then we got Chooch's pick of the week to split up our big segments for tonight, which will end with the MLB trade deadline discussion part 2. But this time around, for our mocks, we're not just going to be focused on New York, but we'll be focused more on any last-minute blockbuster trades involving any team in Major League Baseball. And we'll get into that later on tonight. But as I mentioned, we kick things off, as always, with the Empire Express. And we'll start things off with the New York Yankees. And for the Yankees going into today, the Orioles were playing a doubleheader. They did take game 1 of that doubleheader, so these standings are not up to date. But the Yankees are currently in action with the Phillies, as Tom mentioned before. Austin Wells with a 2 RBI knock there. They are now up 7-2. at least, I believe, in the fifth inning or the top
So-
or the bottom of the fifth inning at this point.
Yeah, the top just ended, so I think we're on bottom 5 right now.
Going bottom 5 there. Yankees over the Phillies 7-2. The Orioles are in doubleheader action, as I mentioned before. So the Yankees keeping close here. You know, we've talked about, you know, the fall of the Yankees over the last month, but the Baltimore Orioles are right there with the Yankees, and they've kept them in this race. At any point, the Orioles could have taken a 5-game advantage, 7-game advantage if luck had gone their way. But here we are, and the American League East is still very tight. The Yankees are coming off taking 2 out of 3 at Fenway Park. Arguably could have went for the sweep if not for the tough Friday loss. But the Yankees have played better ball as of late. Outside, of course, getting beaten by the Mets and getting swept there. But since then, the Yankees seem to have gotten their offense together. They're definitely seeing some better, slightly better pitching, but we're getting back into the right field. We're looking at the column there that has the on-base percentage, OPS, and runs scored. The Yankees are atop of those 3 categories right there. So, Thomas, what's your latest and greatest thoughts on these New York Yankees as they continue to mash against the Philadelphia Phillies tonight?
Yeah, I mean, very eventful weekend in Boston. And I was thinking, I watched a little bit of the game Friday, then, you know, having one of the worst losses of the season, and you know, felt like, I'm away with my friends for the weekend. I'm not going to watch the rest of these games. Saturday, an incredible comeback. It's amazing to follow up maybe the worst loss of the season with the best win of the season in Boston, and then Sunday just absolutely laying the hammer down on the Red Sox, and maybe that turns the season around. Jazz Chisholm is here. I know he was 1 for 4 the first game, stole a base. You know, hit a home run tonight. So like I love to see what he can bring to the lineup. I know there's some different thoughts on Jazz Chisholm, and I'm sure we'll get to them in his time as a Yankee, but he's a quality baseball player. He's versatile. He's willing to play third base today. Something that another Yankee second baseman was refusing to do. So yeah, I think it was a good move. You know, if he is a league average hitter who's versatile and is on a very cheap deal, I think that is a very plus valuable player for the Yankees, and maybe he shines even brighter in New York. They did give up some prospects here. The big one being Agustin Ramirez, who has been hot this year, was in Somerset, moved up to AAA. I know Rich has poured one out for Augustine, over the weekend. But listen, Austin Wells has been mashing. There's nowhere for Ramirez to play. Trade him while he's hot and get someone who could help this team now and in the immediate future. I think the Yankees, they're looking good, and they're looking good against the Phillies. This was going to always be a tough series. It's kind of similar to about a month ago when we played the Braves, who at the time were still doing very well, and the Yankees did not show up in that Braves series, and they got embarrassed. And at least through 4.5 innings tonight, the Yankees are taking it to the Phillies. And, this is maybe when we turn it around. We turn it around, we make some more trades. We'll get into some more trades later. And, we start getting back to the April and May Yankees and not the June and July Yankees.
There's a couple ways I could take the Jazz thing, but I know Joe has a couple of his 2 cents on Jazz Chisholm, dating back to, I think, about over a week ago, where Joe basically lambasted a Jazz Chisholm to the Yankees move on ESB Podcast's X account. But Joe, take the floor. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you are accepting of the fact that Jazz is what he is, which is about a league average hitter who has some athleticism, who has some speed, then your expectation should be that. If you have the expectation that this is going to turn the Yankee season around and this is going to be the thing that puts the Yankees over the hump, you're wrong. You are getting, let's be real, you are getting a league average hitter who is oft injured, who is an awful fielder, who has terrible baseball IQ,
defense tonight,
and is a general pain in the butt. And yes, he brings energy. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying he is an improvement over Jimani Jones or any of the other guys.
He's an improvement over almost the rest of the Yankees lineup, other than Soto and Judge this year.
But this is a league average player. This is not a star. He's not going to be a star. That's not who he is. I've watched plenty of him watching the Marlins. He's a terrible outfielder. He's a probably halfway decent second baseman. He's probably better than what Gleyber Torres does at second base. But let's be real. That's what he is. He's never played third base in his life. The fact that the Yankees are even trying him at third base is absurd. And the fact that Gleyber Torres, let's not even get into, we could get into the Gleyber Torres thing in a minute. The fact that Gleyber Torres refused to play third base and Jazz has actually stepped up is actually a credit to Jazz. And when Jazz is the most to lose in that one, Jazz Chisholm's a bad fielder. He's like a negative 14 defensive runs saved center fielder, and he's a net negative second base center fielder in his career. He's a bad outfielder, a bad outfielder, and
I've seen a lot of plays when it comes to Jazz, and not good ones. And in terms of replays, it's a lot of bonehead plays, but there's no denying he does bring an athleticism to the Yankees lineup, which I think they desperately needed. I mean, we were talking about the Yankees, how they need a true leadoff hitter. They have no speed in that lineup at all. So Jazz does bring the athleticism part of it. I think it's the biggest issue is going to be trying to squeeze him, because he's almost like a what they call the square box, and you're trying to squeeze it into a circular hole because he's kind of blocked at the positions that he plays best. And tonight you're seeing him at third base. I know he's been okay so far at third base in half a game's worth of action. So he's not a third baseman at all. This would be very temporarily until you hope you get another acquisition at the deadline. We still have a little less than 24 hours now to make another move. So hopefully third base is very temporarily his position because he should not be there long term. But I think from a good news standpoint, it brings athleticism and it brings some lefty pop into Yankee Stadium, which you like to have as well too. So I think there are a lot of pros. Do I think he's an overrated player? Yes. Do I think he's an asset? Yes. So it's kind of like it helps you on one standpoint, hurts you on some others. But I do think the Yankees are a better team with him in the lineup. Do I think he's a superstar player as previously was the hope? Absolutely not.
No, he's a complementary piece to what should be a fully functioning batting order. And tonight he's batting sixth. And now Giancarlo Stanton made his return off the IL as well. And when the Yankees put out the order, you can make an argument of who should be where in that batting order. But as far as the 9 goes, it is the best 9 the Yankees have put out all season long, considering where they started and where they are right now. And I think there's still room for improvement from now until the 6 p.m. deadline tomorrow. Now, when it comes to Jazz Chisholm, I'm not the biggest Jazz Chisholm fan myself. I've never really been. He is not a superstar player. He's a complimentary player. And where he is in the middle of the order, I think makes sense for Jazz. He did lead off a bit for Miami. So that could be something that the Yankees can explore, although Alex Verdugo's been swinging a hot bat as of late, coming hot off this Fenway Park series, the Boston series rather. When it comes to Jazz Chisholm, I do worry about the attitude. I know there's been some players the Yankees have gotten over the last few months, dating back to the beginning of the offseason, where you're talking about like pretty colorful personalities, to say the least, with Alex Verdugo, Marcus Stroman, and Jazz Chisholm now joins that mix. And you hope with the veterans there in that locker room, you can steer Jazz into the right way. You don't want Jazz to get carried away.
I'll be honest, I don't want to hear that about Jazz Chisholm. The Yankees employed Aroldis Chapman and Domingo Germán for years. And if people are going to complain about Jazz Chisholm in that locker room when you were employing domestic abusers, you can get out of here. I don't care.
Yeah,
that is absolute bullshit.
But they did cut those players. And what
they didn't cut those players. Chapman was there for they were
they didn't resign him though, Tom. They didn't bring him back.
Cut him.
And Domingo Germán had his incidents yet. He got suspended. Then he came back. He came back last year, and they got rid of him.
Chapman, this whole thing with Chapman happened like 5-6 years ago. They kept him that whole time. They only left when his contract was up. I don't want to hear it. It's bullshit. There's a
difference between bad behavior as a bad individual, borderline criminal behavior, and an egotistical player. That
I would rather have a team of Jazz Chisholm than a team
when we talk about Chapman. Verdugo and Stroman and Jazz, they are egotistical players.
I don't think anybody's comparing the two situations. No one would want a piece of human filth like Aroldis Chapman or Domingo Germán on this team anymore. I'm just saying, with Jazz Chisholm in the mix, he's going to have to follow this Yankees team and its veterans, and I think he'll do a fine job of that. Now, that's not the point I was going to get to anyway. The point I was going to get to was the Gleyber Torres comments, and I was going to get your thoughts on it, as Sierra did make this comment earlier about Gleyber Torres. Gleyber did not refuse. He said, I'm a second baseman, but everything's on the table. The reporters are rage baiting. Thomas, what were your thoughts on the recent comments made by Gleyber Torres as far as the potential move from second base to third base?
I mean, I think he should be willing to do whatever it takes. And if his full comment was that he is willing to do it and they just decide to put Jazz there tonight instead of Gleyber, and if in theory tomorrow they say, hey, Jazz, you're going to play second, Gleyber's going to play third, then yeah, that would be something getting blown out of proportion. But I know that's the way that it's being portrayed right now. The Yankees have tried to trade Gleyber at the deadline before. He should be willing to do whatever. I mean, frankly, at this point, his stock is take such a hit this year. Now, granted, he's been swinging a much better bat over the last month or so, but if he wants to just improve his free agent value, I mean, he plays a horrible second base. He's leading the league in errors at second, so maybe you could do a little better somewhere else. At least show some versatility that can get the idea that Gleyber Torres, he was coming into this year thinking that he was going to get a very large contract in the offseason, probably not from the Yankees, but from someone else. If he's not willing to, expand his horizons to play some other positions on a team that's competing for a division and has World Series aspirations, I think that hurts him overall. Again, it's not like he's not Nolan Arenado level defender at second base. He's being refusing to move. He should be willing to do whatever. And if the comments are wrong and they're taken out of context, then people should back off him. But if that's really what he's saying, then that's
to be honest, I'm only getting the excerpt that sees Brian Holt connected to it.
I think everyone is, and that's fair.
Quote, I'm a second baseman. I play second. So again, I don't know what the full quote is. I keep trying to look for it. Joe, do you have a better idea? I'm sorry.
I think we said this before when everything happened with Jorge
Aaron
Lopez
Boone
with the
is
Mets.
The one who said everything is on the table.
I think
Aaron Boone is the one who said everything is on the table, not Gleyber. He said, I don't like playing third. That's what he said. He said, I don't like playing third. And again, he has a right to feel that way about not playing third. But let's be real. Gleyber Torres is on the first bus out of here. He should be grateful that he is allowed to play at all right now. And if his team comes to him and says, you need to play third base, he better say, I'll go wherever, I'll play wherever you tell me, because I've sucked this year. I have to make up for it. And if playing third base out of my comfort zone is good for the team, then ultimately it's good for the team. He has more experience at third base than Jazz Chisholm does.
And I said this before, like a month ago with the whole Jorge Lopez, right, with the Mets and his comments. When you have athletes who English is not the first language, and I know Gleyber has done a good job with English, but maybe if it's something that he wasn't putting out there exactly how he wanted to, I do think you have to give him a bit of a benefit of the doubt if he, maybe there wasn't exactly what he was trying to say, even though it's the words he did say.
Yeah. Either way, if I'm a Yankee fan or if I'm the Yankee front office, I don't want to hear any hesitancy, because Gleyber hasn't earned. Let's be real, Gleyber hasn't earned his spot on this team, and so if the team comes to you and says we can't find anybody to play third base, but guess what? We found somebody who could probably play second base pretty good, and Torres, you're better at third base than he would be. Well, guess what? He's got to move over there. As far as this, if he's worried about his free agency value or anything, he should have thought of that before he's hit 230 this year and with a 92 OPS plus and a negative, the lead in the league at errors in second base.
Yeah, because
go take rounders at third base.
Yeah, because with Torres too, I mean, his biggest strength is supposed to be his bat, not the glove. It's a double-edged sword if you look at it from a free agency standpoint too, because on one hand, if Torres does a terrible job at third base, obviously you're not going to play him at third base, whoever picks him up in the future. But if he comes to play third base and actually does all right and shows that he has a little more versatility, it might actually help his free agency value. I know no team is going to want him there long term. Don't get me wrong, at third base, but if you actually place the position pretty well, it would actually help boost his free agency value a little more. I think the big thing is too, now you're most likely stuck with him. We'll see what ends up happening with the deadline, but from my standpoint looking in, again, I don't know every single Yankee rumor that's out there. I'm just thinking from a baseball standpoint, because of his situation, because him being a rental player for a team acquiring him, that's eliminating a lot of teams. Why would a bottom-feeding team want to make a trade for Gleyber Torres? They wouldn't. So the only way I would see a trade maybe working is some sort of 3-team trade where you ship Gleyber to another team, maybe an NL team. I just don't see a team wanting to trade for Gleyber Torres right now, to be perfectly honest, because you're not going to. Yeah.
And the more we're seeing these trades come off the board, especially of some veteran infielders, it is going to be tougher as we get closer to the deadline. I think with the Yankees making the trade for Jazz Chisholm, there was a part of me, and still, I can't even say a part, I still believe there is an avenue where Gleyber Torres can find himself on another roster. It would have to be a contending team that doesn't have much depth at the second base position, but would just want a cheap option. Because at this point, what you're getting out of Gleyber Torres is most likely a prospect, if we're going to go to the MLB.com rankings, probably somewhere in the 15-30 range, being honest. And it's probably just going to be one.
I think it'd be something. You would maybe try to get like a major league reliever for him on a team that maybe has a stacked bullpen. Just throwing it out there, last 21 games for Gleyber Torres, he's hitting 317.
No, he's hitting well.
76 OPS. He's been hitting a lot better. He's been hitting better since he got benched after that first series against the Mets when he deserved to be benched. So he has been hitting better. Yankee fans have gone up. I feel like we got rid of Gary and then Gleyber replaced him. The Yankee fans going up and down with him. He is a good hitter at times. He goes through these droughts though. I don't know. It just seems at this point they have to make
it frustrating because he's got the talent.
Very talented.
He doesn't have the headspace for it. Let's be real.
We got to move forward. We'll talk more about the Jazz Chisholm acquisition and Gleyber Torres on Extra Innings later on tonight, hosted by Sierra. I'm sure Sierra's got her 2 cents ready to go on the Gleyber Torres situation, so we'll get more into that, and we'll get that full quote out there of what Gleyber Torres said to the media earlier in the week. Shout out to Jack Esposito. What's going on, Jack? Also, we got Swift here. What's going on, Swift? Joey Bag of Donuts, the host of the Morning Drive. Hello, all except Tom, says Joey Bag of Donuts.
Joey, I'm sorry. I goofed last week. I'm still sorry about it.
There you go. And shout out to Hitman, my guy Hitman. Love you, Hitman. All righty, let's go over to the Mets side of the house. Corey Favs, fresh off the beach, fresh off of Arizona. Corey Favs, thoughts on the New York Metropolitans and the status of your favorite baseball team?
Yeah, overall, it really is a very similar situation to where we were last week. If anything, slightly better because you made up some ground. You were actually very briefly wild card one this weekend with the New York Mets. They were a half game up after winning the first 2 games from the Braves. They ended up splitting the 4-game set, so they went back down. Back a game and a half. The Padres are right there. A lot of teams you can see, they're right here in this mix. And it's going to stay this way pretty much down the stretch. A lot of teams duking it out for the last few spots. From a Mets fan standpoint, it's a very fun time right now. I wish they could have won that series with the Braves. So it's like, if you would have told me before the series they'd take two of the 4, I'd be cool with it. I would have signed up for it. But after winning the first 2, jumping a wild card 1, I would have loved to see them split the Saturday, Sunday games and remain wild card 1 going into today. But it is what it is. Overall, a great week for the New York Mets. They continue to be pretty hot. Right now, they're playing the Twins. They're up 5-1 in the bottom of the 4th inning. So nice to see the offense come alive after the offense was kind of quiet on Saturday and Sunday. They did make an acquisition to try to help that offense, and that's Mr. Winker, who has a little bit of a history with the Mets, not with the Mets as a player, but actually against him as opposing player. I know always had the thing with the fans waving at the crowd when he made that sliding catch to end the game, but the Winker trade, and Joe, I'll ask your opinion on it too in a moment here, actually fits one of the needs perfectly for what this team was looking for. From a Mets standpoint, there were 4 items I was hoping to see them address this deadline. 1, starting pitching, especially more so now than ever because of the Senga injury. They needed to set up a legit setup option for the bullpen. You need a back end of the bullpen guy you can trust. They needed to add some bullpen depth, which they did with Stanek, some actual major league depth in that bullpen. And the last was getting a left-handed outfielder to get rid of DJ Stewart, to eventually get rid of Gamble, who should be gone within the week. I would say he'll probably be the next to go. But it gives you a legitimate major league right fielder, left fielder, corner outfielder who could give you a little bit of pop, do his thing versus righties. He's actually got a 788 OPS, I think, this season, which is a decent OPS. I'll sign up for that.
Higher than Jazz.
It actually is higher than Jazz. I'll give you that. But it's exactly what the Mets needed. You didn't give up too much. I know Tyler Stewart, interesting prospect, but it's not like he was a top 5 prospect. So you gave up what you gave up. I thought it filled a need, especially because we don't know when Marte's coming back. Sounds like it might be within a few weeks. It might be longer. You never know. So I'm very happy with the acquisition. And honestly, any left-handed bat was an improvement over what DJ Stewart was giving you over the last 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like a little bit of a roller coaster this weekend. The Mets came off of a high. They got Kodai Senga back. They were beating the Braves pretty good.
And he looked so good.
Senga looked good minus the 1 home run he gave up. And then all of a sudden, Senga blows out his calf coming off of the mound, and his season is just about over. So Senga basically pulled an Aaron Rodgers in baseball terms, where he comes in for the game for his season debut, and then you're not going to see him the rest of the year. So, and then it kind of after that, the Mets kind of just like, it kind of brought the Mets down a little bit. They won the 2 games. They come into Saturday and Sunday. All they need is to get one of these for the Braves to maintain control of the NL wild card, and they give both back right to the Braves. Worst comes to worst, you split with them. It is what it is. You're still in the hunt. You've shown the Braves that you can now not only catch them, but move past them if you need to at any moment. The Braves are still in big trouble, but the Mets have to still improve this roster. Jesse Winker, I like the trade. He's different. He brings some energy to him. He brings an edge to him. Listen, he had some fun with the Met fans, and I give credit to both him and the Met fans. It never got nasty. Again, never got ugly. It was a lot of badgering back and forth, and he had fun with it, and that's great to see. And I think the fans are going to embrace him coming over here. I think he can be that lefty bat off the bench, especially when Marte comes back. They can platoon, just a straight platoon. I think that will be fine. But at the end of the day, the Mets still have a couple holes. I like the Stanek deal. They bought low on him, and from a team that also acquired more assets, so they need to free up a spot. So I like that move. I need another arm or 2 in the back end of that bullpen, and now I need to think about getting a starter now that Senga's not coming back. Well, that really is going to be the hurt. You expected Senga back. He did come back. He performed well, just like you imagined he would, and then he gets hurt again. That kind of puts a damper on it, and it does expose a hole in the back end of the rotation when you expected to have a guy, and he's no longer going to be there. So yeah. I don't think they're going to be big game hunting. I don't think they're going to be in Skubal, Crotchet, or any of those guys.
Crotchet.
But I think there's room to improve the back end. I think they'll find somebody out there like a Lorenzen type who went to the Royals who can fill the back end of the rotation.
What happened to Senga is a damn shame. And to your point, I think on offense, I think the Mets are set. They're ready to go for this stretch run. It's now you're talking about pitching. Losing Senga really stinks, and now you have to consider, all right, what are you doing to replace the quality starts that Senga was going to give you, and what else were you going to get anyway? I mean, you were still going to attack the starting pitching market with Senga on the team. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over these next 22 hours for the New York Mets. Again, I've mentioned on the show before, selfishly, I want the Mets to just kill that starting pitching market, take something away from the Orioles or what the Red Sox can improve upon. So we'll see what the Mets got in store. And obviously, you mentioned Skubal, Garrett Crochet. That's going to be a high
Joe
bargain.
mentioned Crockett. Crochet seems to be a different player.
Crochet. It's Crochet.
Crochet. Crochet, yeah.
I apologize for my mistake. I said Crotchet.
Sure.
He's
sure
the Crotchet. Yeah. So yeah, Garrett Crochet is going to be an interesting name that's going to be tossed around from team to team on these offers. Tarek Skubal, more than likely, is probably not getting moved. Tarek Skubal arguably is the favorite to win the American League Cy Young this year with the way he's been throwing the ball.
And honestly, he shouldn't be moved. If you're, I mean, I know we're not Empire State of Tigers baseball, but if you're a Tigers fan, that's a team that's on the up. That's a team that actually looked good for a couple of months this year. That's a
Joe
team
and I were kind of Empire State of Tigers baseball preseason.
Yeah,
we were with the preseason predictions. But if you're a Tigers fan and that's a guy you want to build around. You know, that's not a guy you want to see your team give up. It's a young pitcher on a team that's on the up that maybe could fight for a playoff spot next season. So I don't know why I want to trade him personally.
I agree, Corey, considering it is the American League Central. It's anybody's division when you're entering any new season. But the Tigers have to sit back and think for a second. When they have 2.5 years of Tarek Skubal, there's no better package that they can get for this starting pitcher than right now. And I mean, that's kind of a rule of thumb across the game. You know, you're never going to get as good of a package as you will right now, while there is still control there. So those are tough questions. Those are tough questions, though, the Tigers have to answer. Ultimately, though, I don't think he gets moved.
They would need a
dangling it out there. They know that he is the best option if they make him available on the market. So by dangling his name out there, they're going to see how desperate teams are. Are the Orioles desperate enough to start talking one of their 2 or 3 top prospects, where 3 of the top 20 prospects in all of baseball? We put a couple trades together. We'd like to see that. Might be one of them later. We'll talk about. They have that option of dangling the carrot out there and somebody going and giving them an offer that they can't refuse. Whether or not they hear that is another question, but they're in the position, hey, I know I have the best guy available. I know for a fact that no matter where you go, you can't get a guy better than this guy, and I'm going to make you pay for it. I want your 3 of your top 5 prospects. That's what they have the power to do with him, and I think that's why his name is being thrown out there. Ultimately, you're right. I probably agree with you. I don't think he moves.
Shout out to our guy, Dane Huber, over at NYYU, NYY Underground. It is. Dane was one of our Creator Spotlight guests that we had on a couple of months back. And if you tune in to any extra innings episode from the past, you might hear a little bit of a 1v1 between Joe and Dane over prospects. So no, Dane's a welcome member of our chat, and we love seeing Dane in here. So shout out
Dane
to our guy.
Boy got traded. Dane was a big Augustine Ramirez guy.
Dane was a big Augustine guy. He was a big Jared Cerna guy. He actually interviewed Jared Cerna as part of Yankees Farm. So shout out to Dane once again. But yeah, for us that love our Yankees prospects that no one's really heard of, it was tough to see Augustine's name go there to Miami. But, you know, it is what it is. So we will move on, though, from the Empire Express onto Chooch's pick of the week. But before we get there, let's talk about Instagram. There's no better person to talk about Instagram than our very own Corey Favs. Corey, go for it.
Well, go ahead. Follow us on Instagram. We have 4,800 followers now. We're actually approaching 4,900. We might cross that threshold in the next day or two. So let's keep an eye out there. But follow Empire State of Baseball on Instagram.
Yes,
You'll
sir.
have all of our reels. You'll have clips. You'll have every graphic that we end up sharing. It ends up on the Instagram. You'll see stories. You'll see it all. So go ahead and follow us there. You can also follow us individually, myself at Corey Favs, Joe at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J. Rivera, and Tom at T. Wospil. Go ahead for all of our archive segments, memes, reels, you name it. It's on the gram.
Yes, sir. Give us a follow at Empire State of Baseball on Instagram. And we are live on Instagram. Did put out a couple questions up there. One being, who should the Mets acquire by tomorrow's deadline? So looking for your responses exclusively on IG. But let's move on from that. And we're going to throw it over to Chooch's pick of the week. Chooch going into the week with a 12-9 overall record. He cleaned up nicely for All-Star Week. He had 5 available points to get, and he actually went 3-2. He hit on Paul Skeens pitching well. He hit on the AL, defeating the NL. And not only that, he also hit on the exact score of that game, 5-3. So good on Chooch for picking up 3 points there. And we'll see what Chooch does tonight on this very special edition of Chooch's Pick of the Week. Take it away, Chooch.
What's up, BSB crew? Chooch is back with Chooch's Pick of the Week, and I'm here with the very own Corey Favs. And together we're going to make Chooch's Pick of the Week here from the beach. This week we got a late week matchup. The Cleveland Guardians versus the Baltimore Orioles, two top divisions. Cleveland leads the American League altogether, and I think Cleveland's going to take this weekend series. The Orioles have been kind of on a down tilt, and my player to watch is going to be John Kenzie Noel. That's for you, Tom. And a bit of an unknown. He's come up, and he hit some dingers. And if he pitches this weekend, the newly acquired Zach Eflin for Baltimore. What do you got?
I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to go with the Baltimore Orioles this week, 3-1, and I'm going with a familiar face in Cedric Mullins to be the player to watch. We'll see what Mullins does. It should be a very fun 4-game set. But what do you guys think?
I don't know, Corey, do you want to answer your own question? No. I mean, great job by Corey and Matt chilling on the beach. What beach was that today, Corey?
That was Seagirt Beach down in the Jersey Shore. So Chooch's been dying to go to the beach and could never find a day. I happened to be off today, took the extra day after Arizona, so said, come on down.
And Chooch called out sick.
Yeah.
That was not planned off day, I bet. Chooch called out sick today, played a little hooky.
I'll tell you what, if his boss is watching now, Chooch might be on the job market after today.
Well, Matt Tucker called out, but Chooch locked in and went to work today on his pick of the week with the Orioles and the Guardians. But let's take it around the room real quick, starting with Mr. Thomas with that evil-looking goatee he's got there. Tom, Guardians, Orioles, what do you got?
Orioles have been playing poorly, but I still think the Guardians, I don't care if they have the best record in the AL. I think the AL Central is duty. They're pretenders, and I'll take the Orioles in the series.
Joe?
Yeah, it's a tough one. The Guardians have been playing so well. The Orioles have not. But I think the O's are going to turn around. The team's too good. The lineup's too deep. They've been making moves. They're trying to improve this team, so I'm going to go with the O's.
Speaking about making moves, Aaron Judge might have hit one to the old vet. 9-3 Yankees.
Wow.
Damn.
It is 6-1 Mets, by the way.
There you go. Both teams doing good, which is exactly what I want to see. In terms of that other series, though, I'm going to agree with that Corey Favs fella. I'm going to go with the Orioles 3-1 this series.
I'm going to agree with that Corey Favs. That's amazing. Actually, I do believe this is a 4-game set between the Guardians and the Orioles. So I'm going to be boring as hell, and I'm going to go with the split. The Guardians have been playing out of their minds. The Orioles have fallen off, but I do see the Orioles start to heat up a little bit, especially depending on who else they are able to nab before Tuesday's deadline. So I got a split of the Orioles and Guardians. These are two teams that more than likely, and not more than likely, you will see in the postseason at the end of this year. So it's going to be a heavyweight fight for that 4-game set in Cleveland. All right. From there, we take it over to YouTube. And with our YouTube plug, we go over to Joe. Joe, take it away.
Yes, you can. We are live on Instagram and X, but YouTube is our preferred destination. Why? Because we can interact with you live. We can bring up your comments. We can bring up arguments in the chat, answers in the chat, all that stuff. We can interact with you while we're on stream. That's why it's our preferred. We're at 276 subscribers. We're trying to get to 500 before the end of the season. That's a big milestone for us and everybody listening. So if you can, drop a like, subscribe, send it to your friends, send it to somebody who likes baseball, who likes the Mets, who likes the Yankees. Tell them to subscribe. It's free. And you guys can help us out in a big way by doing that.
Yes, and thank you very much for that, Joe. Yeah, we're hopeful to get to that 500 number by the fall. And we've been making great pace since the beginning of the year on YouTube. I mean, it felt like a year ago we only had about, I don't know, even 20, 30 subscribers, and now a little over 375. So, it's been a great ride with y'all, and a big shout out to YouTube for holding it down on the streaming end of things. And we got some comments on our Chooch's Pick of the Week that was held at the beach here. Shout out to Mike Parziali. So loves the beach vibes. The sea was angry that day, my friend. And our guy, Captain Jack Esposito, as a pirate, the sea looks very rough here.
It was rough, but it was warm.
Shout out to Captain Jack, my guy. All right. Let's talk MLB Trade Deadline for most likely one final time. As I mentioned before, We're just 22 hours away from the 6 o'clock deadline on Tuesday the 30th. And last week was a lot of fun, coming up with some trade mocks for our favorite team. So tonight, we continue that momentum, but this time we're opening it up to any team. And we're going to make this last-minute blockbusters. So we did this last year. We had a lot of fun with it. When Shohei Ohtani was being tossed around in trade talks, I had the Yankees acquiring Ohtani at the deadline. I believe there was a Juan Soto from the Padres to the Yankees deal then. I forgot who did it, probably most likely Tom. But you could tune in on those episodes archived on YouTube from last year. So now we're here, fast forward to 2024, and we're going to touch on these last-minute blockbusters. We're going to start with Tom here. We're going to go to Tom, Joe, Corey, and then I'll wrap it up here with these last-minute blockbuster deals. So, Thomas, even though I did say we're opening it up to all teams, Tom wanted to keep things going for his favorite team. So, Thomas, take it away with the first deal.
Yeah, I have the Yankees getting in on the Rays fire sale as they continue to sell people. They just traded Ahmed Rosario to the Dodgers. I know we saw that in the chat. For those who didn't see it, Rosario looks like he's heading to LA. And I have the Yankees getting some two pieces I think they'd be extremely helpful for them. One, Yandy Diaz playing first base, leadoff batter. It would be able to fill that role for the Yankees. Yes, I know Ben Rice has been good at times, but frankly, I don't think the Yankees can count on Ben Rice. And if they really want, they can have him serve as the backup catcher behind Austin Wells if they want to be able to still kind of get him in there for certain opportunities. And the Yankees also acquiring Pete Fairbanks, very similar to when I was talking about the Yankees going out and getting Tanner Scott from the Marlins last week. I think you bring Fairbanks in, and although he is also a righty with Clay Holmes, you really kind of make it a dual closer situation just based on matchup, based on freshness, based on, who's pitching better at the time can get the saves there. The Yankees still need, I think, another bat for this lineup to really, really solidify things, and they need at least one more solid member of the bullpen, and then maybe another project kind of guy to bring in and see if they can touch on some things. Yankees are going to have to pay to make this happen, though. So I have them trading Roderick Arias, Brock Selvage, and Will Warren over to the Rays. I'm not going to get worried about, the Rays are always going to ask for these prospects and they're going to turn them into amazing players, because you know what, then the Rays will just sell them off anyway. The Yankees need to pay if you need to acquire quality players, and I think this is a deal that, if the Rays are selling everyone, they might as well take the best offers they can get. And I would like to see the Yankees bring in Diaz and Fairbanks.
Yeah, so this is definitely an interesting trade. More for the fact that it is within division. Although we have seen some in-division trades over the last week, when it comes to trading with the Tampa Bay Rays, there's a warning that comes with it. The Rays know how to trade. And they've looked like rock stars as sellers thus far of this deadline. We saw the move they made with San Diego yesterday, trading Jason Adam, who does have control, but San Diego acquired 3 prospects, including Dylan Lesko in there. And I fear a Yankees-Tampa Bay Rays deal in any regard, because I'm thinking whoever the Rays are scouting on the Yankees end, they think they can turn that player into gold. And I know for a certain that Roderick Arias is one of those players that Tampa Bay legitimately has eyes on. And I want to credit and shout out my guy, Dane Huber, who's been bringing up the name Roderick Arias when it comes to Tampa, as Tampa Bay has looked at Arias as a potential player to land at this deadline. So shout out to you, Tom, for even throwing Arias in there. And you look at the baseball trade values in here, 24.60 going to the Tampa Bay Rays, 23.80 to the Yankees. So pretty even deal here. Brock Selvage, Will Warren, solid minor league pitchers themselves. Joe, Corey, thoughts on this deal from Thomas?
Listen, I mean, I think it's a deal that the Yankees would heavily consider. I don't know about the 2 pitching prospects. They might want to only give up one of them. Because Selvig and Warren are what constitutes their young arms at the moment that are close to the big leagues. Did Selvig just have Tommy John? Am I right about that?
No.
I'm not 100% sure. So anyway, I think the big thing on this would probably be they want somebody like a Spencer Jones who's closer to the major leagues than an Arias. I know Arias is several years down the road. And I think the Rays are looking more of a retool than they are a complete rebuild. We know how they operate. They kind of operate year to year. Also, I thought the point of this exercise was to do non-Met and Yankee trades.
I said, I opened it to any trade.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I stayed away from the Yankees myself, but yes, Thomas here went with a Rays Yankees deal, and we'll see how this one goes. Corey Favs, your thoughts real quick before
Fairbanks would be a phenomenal acquisition for the Yankees, especially with a lot of drama surrounding Clay Holmes. Now, Clay Holmes did secure the W against the Red Sox in the Saturday game, I believe. A bit of a dicey game, but got through. Yankees got the dub. So, but regardless, Fairbanks would be a phenomenal acquisition, guy who knows the division well. Diaz would be nice too. It would be the second time he's traded this weekend because he was involved in a fantasy trade I made in one of my leagues. So it would be the second trade for Diaz, but that would be an interesting piece. But Fairbanks would be the real prize for the Yankees.
Yes, Fairbanks would be added to a good back in the bullpen mix and at least alleviate the Clay Holmes as the sole option in a ninth inning job. So an interesting deal there. I don't know if that would likely happen again. I'm afraid with the Yankees doing any business with the Tampa Bay Rays this time of year. But Joe, let's go to you with your deal here. You did follow the non-Yankee, non-Met deal rule, but it's all right. Again, we open it up to everybody. So what is your deal here? Let's take a look.
Yeah. I said, what would be a mind-blowing blockbuster? And maybe I didn't put enough in there now that I look at the trade values. Now, granted, I will fully admit, Rich is the only one with the trade values, and he does this after the fact. So most of the time we make these trades, Rich adds the value, and we don't know what the value is going to be. But I have Tyreek Skubal going to the Baltimore Orioles for the number one prospect in baseball, Jackson Holliday, and their number one pitching prospect in Chase McDermott. This is the only way I can see Skubal moving, is Jackson Holliday being the prize. The Rays are out, the Nationals are out, so some of the other top prospects, the top 5 prospects in baseball, are not on teams that are going to be looking to acquire Skubal. I think that this is the only way. The Tigers need to be tempted by generational talent, or what they perceive as generational talent. I think Jackson Holliday fits that mold. Again, we might need more in this. I wasn't 100% on the trade values, but this opens that conversation. If the Orioles say, I'm willing to part with Holliday for Skubal, that opens the door. There is no one else that opens that door for the Tigers, in my opinion. I think that is why they are shopping Skubal, to see if they can get this level of talent from the Baltimore Orioles.
And that definitely would be some trade. I mean, that's a legitimate blockbuster. Would be hard to beat this trade in terms of biggest trade of the deadline that we'll see. I would love to see this happen, just to see all of the discussion that comes out of that type of trade. So I don't think it happens, but that would be some trade if it did.
It would have to be a little bit more, obviously. You know, as Joe alluded to before, the deal was submitted before the trade value actually got entered here. So again, he right along the right lines here. He went with the number one prospect and the Orioles' number one starting pitching prospect to try to get this deal done. It would have to take a couple more pieces here. Skubal will be the best available pitcher if made available, truly made available by the Detroit Tigers, without a doubt. As I mentioned before, I think at this point, he is most likely your penciled in American League Cy Young Award winner with the season he's had, a 2.35 ERA, a 12-3 record on a bad Detroit Tigers team. And for the Orioles here, I think you might look into potentially adding a player like a Connor Norby in here, a Kobe Miles, number 4, and the number 5 and number 3 prospects, respectively. You're definitely going to look at a couple more of those top 15s that would have to go into this deal to, I think, even it up. But I think, Joe, you're along the right path here. But realistically, regardless of what you come up with, the Orioles have the horses in the stable to get a deal done, realistically.
Yep.
So, you know, again, it's the right pair. I think it's the right pair among maybe a small handful of teams that can do this, but the Orioles for sure can make a deal happen for Tarek Skubal. They just got to be willing to, I think, move with that number one piece there, Joe, that you mentioned in Jackson Holiday. So
Yeah,
I'd say.
Sorry, I was saying I was kind of doing some back end, trying to figure out what else could go in here. If you put a Norby in there, MLB trade values have him at about a 10. You're looking at about a 25 deficit. So you need to throw him in there, and then probably another top, 8 guy from their list for at least for the MLB trade value to make work. But again, you're trading for a guy who's probably going to win the Cy Young this year, and you have 2 more years of control. So that is going to cost a lot if that's what you're trying to acquire.
It opens the conversation, and that's the one thing where I feel like the Tigers are in a position where they won't even entertain offers unless they're your top prospect. If the name Jackson Holiday is stated when Baltimore calls Detroit and they say, we want Skubal, let's talk, and Jackson Holiday would be one of them. The phone conversation is going to go on a long time, because that's a name that you're not going to, the same as if it would be James Woods in Washington or Junior Caminario from Tampa Bay, but those teams are not in that sweepstate. They're not buying. So this is where we're at. Like, that opens the door where most other teams don't even have that ammunition to open the front door.
Always definitely have that ammunition here. And Corey Favs, you have our next deal here, and we go back to New York for this one.
I went back to the Mets on this trade. I know because last week when we did our New York specific segment, I was a bit in a retool mode for the New York Mets, but they had a 5-game win streak. They were briefly wild card 1. A lot of good teams that they went out and beat last week. Yankees, the Braves, a lot of good games that they went out winning. So, and also hearing all the comments, all of the chatter on Mets Twitter from all of the beat writers that the Mets are going in. They're buying. They're not selling. They're not retooling. They are legitimately buying. And what are the last 2 pieces they need left? Starting pitching help, and it's no longer that 5th starter type. They need at least a mid-tier starter. We have to get Tyler McGill and or Peterson out of the rotation. I think McGill would be a perfect 3-inning guy out of the bullpen. You could live with Peterson there. That's fine as your 5th starter. You could not live with both in the rotation. So you need a guy with experience, a guy who's pitched in New York. I know the end of his tenure, the last 2 games wasn't pretty, but Chris Bassett is a legitimate middle of the rotation starter, having a decent year. He always gives you decent outings outside of the last 2 starts of the year. And he's under contract for next year. So if you're giving up some big prospects, it's not for a rental. It's for a guy who will be here next year. Joe had Chad Green in his trade last week, and I thought that was a great fit. I'm throwing that in this blockbuster trade. Again, we're trying to focus on potential blockbusters this week. Well, if you get a mid-tier rotation arm in Bassett, under contract for next year as well. Chad Green having a phenomenal year. Bullpen pieces are very coveted right now in baseball. He has an option for next year, which I assume the club would pick up. This would be a tremendous improvement to the New York Mets roster. In terms of what you're giving up, I mean, Hamill, sure, that hurts to go. Kevin Parada, 9th-ranked prospect, but he's a prospect trending down. Alex Ramirez, I forget if it was a Chad Green trade or your other trade, Joe, but I know that was an interesting name to trade too. And Jacob Raymer, just another guy towards the top 10. He's ranked 14th right now. But we'll see. In terms of the values, I know baseball trade values can get a little funky. The values are negative because Bassett and Green have a lot of money owed to them. But this is a good trade for the New York Metropolitans, and I would be very happy if they could make, if it's not necessarily this trade, this type of deal, getting an arm under contract for next year plus bullpen help, I think is exactly what would turn the corner for this team.
Yeah, so I mean, listen, I actually think you might have overvalued what you're getting back, because the big part of this trade and the big appeal to this trade for the Toronto Blue Jays is they're clearing over $30 million off the books for next year by getting rid of Bassett and Chad Green. As much as they want assets, the Mets are the one team that can absorb that kind of hit without an issue, and that's going to allow Toronto to not only free up some money to re-sign their own players, like a Vlad Guerrero, like a Bo Bichette, but have room to improve the team if they so choose to in the offseason. So I think that's what it would be. I think you're on the right track. I would probably try and keep Hamill out of it if I could. But that would be about where we're talking now. So that would be my I think you did pretty good on that one, Corey.
Well, according to the baseball trade values, Blue Jays would say hell yes to that deal. So to at least a reunion of Chris Bassett to the New York Mets. But I think that's, you like to have a consolidated effort on these trades, and for the Mets that are still seeking back end the bullpen help and a starting pitcher, a deal like this definitely helps. And I think a little bit of an overvalue there, but that's fine, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to acquire players from another team, gotta have to go a little bit over. And you certainly did that here, Corey. So bravo to you. And we'll get to my deal here. It is no Yankee deal. It is no Met deal. It's actually a deal between two teams we haven't even touched on in any of the trade mock-ups that we've had over the last week and a half. That trade's going to involve the White Sox dealing Garrett Crochet
or Crockett
and Luis Robert Jr. to the Boston Red Sox in a 7-player deal that would send Wilyer Abreu, Roman Anthony, the Red Sox #2 ranked prospect, Cooper Criswell, Quinn Priester, who the Red Sox just acquired from the Pirates today, and Mikey Romero, the #11th ranked prospect for the Red Sox, going to Chicago. They got a 105.7 value according to BTV, where the Red Sox with Crochet and Luis Robert Jr. would make it a 98.10. We mentioned the Orioles having the stock to make a deal for Tarek Skubal. They have that same stock to make a deal for Garrett Crochet. And I look at Boston in their farm system. Boston's pretty deep, folks. And as far as controllable young players on their major league roster goes, you can go even deeper than Wilyer Abreu and Cooper Criswell, who I mentioned in this deal. I think the Red Sox and the White Sox could be a pair. It has a little bit of a Chris Sale vibe when he went from the Sox to the Sox all the way back before the Red Sox went on their run in 2018. This, of course, would be a dagger to Yankee fans. It's hard to see the Red Sox make a huge move like this ahead of tomorrow's deadline. Yankees and the Orioles and the Dodgers, I wanted to change things up. And unfortunately, I did it with the Yankees' storied rival in Boston with this deal between here. Your thoughts?
I mean, that's something I would like to see happen. But the White Sox should trade these assets while they can and kind of restock their system. So I think it's a good move for the White Sox. I think it contenders and can really solidify them into the wild card. And I know Crochet and Robert both have some control right past this year. Blanking on how your new look Red Sox for 2025 as well. So it would be good for them. So if it's good for them, I don't like it. So yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's an odd trade. You very rarely see two players of such high value go to the same team. I think the Sox would feel like they could get more by splitting Crochet and Robert Jr. out on two separate deals than they can with one deal, as Rich has just backed off. So
apparently I'm lagging. I don't know what's going on.
So Rich was included in the trade to the White Sox as well.
Yes. I think if you're going to trade two players like that, you need Mayer would have to be in this trade in order for it to approach even a discussion.
I avoided Mayer just because they do have that top prospect shortstop. I believe it was Colson Montgomery, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Colton Montgomery. That's why I avoided Mayer in this deal. Trust me, I thought that was going to be our starting piece there. And still could be. The White Sox have a lack of infield depth. between the majors and minors. It really is Montgomery that's going to be taking that role in the infield. And you saw it obviously earlier today with the 3-team deal between the Cardinals, Dodgers, and White Sox. The White Sox took a bunch of young infielders in that deal. So I definitely wanted to change it up there and go with more outfielders. Obviously, there's no need for Wilyer Abreu, who's been doing well in his rookie season for Boston. But yeah, it would be a crazy deal like that to see. Will it happen? No, it's not going to happen. We're just having fun here. We're just trying to have a good time, change things up. And, a deal like that, Joe, the template for me was although there was a pitcher involved in this one, was the Juan Soto and Josh Bell from the Washington Nationals to the San Diego Padres, where the Nats acquired 5 players in there, a couple of top prospects. That was kind of like my template there in that deal. Hopefully it's a deal that does not happen at all, but most likely, let's face it, will not happen.
Volpe 2-run homer.
Damn, there you go.
There we go.
Giving it to the Phillies.
Good.
All righty. Shout out to Sean Browning, who joined us here late. He mentioned Jack Flaherty. Yankees extensive talks with Tigers for Flaherty, so we'll see if something comes into fruition. But for now, we are going to call it a show. Maybe something will happen later tonight over on X. If you join us on our space later on, that's, of course, Extra Innings. That is hosted by Sierra Poteet and the ESB crew. We'll be live at around 9:15 Eastern Seaboard time, 6:15 Pacific time. And again, make sure you are following us on X at ESB Podcast. Give our individuals a follow at G Gory for Corey, at JR Pugs for Joe, at Rich J Rivera for me if you want to waste your time, and at Team Wospil, that is Thomas. But we also have specific team coverage as well. Corey and Joe do a great job holding forth down at the ESB ESB NYM handle, and Tom and I and Sierra's doing a fantastic job holding it down at ESB NYY for the Yankees coverage. So Yankees coverage at ESB NYY, Mets coverage at ESB NYM. But let's call it a show. We'll see you here for next Monday, episode number 96 for August the 5th. That's our first August episode as we're turning the calendar here on July. But let's send it around the room. So for some final words, we'll start with Thomas, go to Joe, Corey, and I'll wrap things up. Thomas, take it away.
Thanks for all my friends. Got to see you down in Wildwood this weekend. Had a great weekend with all of us, with all of you guys. And yeah, can't wait to do it again next year.
Yeah, let's see what this trade deadline brings. And, hopefully we get a few surprises left before 4 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm just going to give a shout out to a good friend who probably passed out right now, so you're not listening in, but hope you had a great weekend.
It certainly was. It certainly was a great time. Shout out to Greg and the crew holding it down in Scottsdale, and shout out to our crew here, Joe, Tom, Corey, and the best chat here on YouTube. We'll see you here next Monday for another edition of Empire State of Baseball.